Hey, friends, here's a question for you. What if the chaos in your life was actually hiding the patterns you're meant to see? Well, today's guest, Courtney Schawl, not only sees those patterns, she helps unlock them. She's a business consultant and author with a background in music therapy who blends creativity, psychology, and strategy to help entrepreneurs step out of overwhelm and into your unique calling. Courtney's also a mom of three under three. Yes, three. Juggling nap time, client calls, songwriting, and now her brand new book, You Are the Sum of Your Last Two Moves. She's as real as it gets, and today we're talking about the tension we all feel, chasing big dreams while trying to stay present in the messy middle of motherhood. So, grab your favorite drink and let's lean into this conversation like a coaching session between moms with big dreams and very real lives. Courtney, I am so excited to have you on today and talk about momhood that you're like right in the messy middle of, and entrepreneurship and how you are doing all the things for all the people in your life. But before we dive into all that, I've got to talk a little bit more about this seeing patterns. You shared with me that seeing patterns is your superpower. What does that mean to you to see patterns?
Yeah, and I'm so happy to be here. Really what seeing patterns for me is I didn't realize I had this, I guess you could call gift for it, but a lot of my friends would be stuck in, a rut in their business or their personal lives, and I would just be like, "Well, you did this, you did that, why don't you do this?" And they'd be like, "What?" And so I realized what I mean by seeing patterns is kind of being able to mine out the gifts in others and how they're supposed to use those in their unique callings in life.
That is a gift for sure. How has that affected your rhythm of life in this ability to see patterns?
Yeah, so it's funny, my grandpa who raised me, he right when I started entrepreneurship and everything, the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, are you gonna quit that too?" And it really kinda stung. I know he had the best intentions because he wanted to make sure that I was set up and everything because that generation is very much you get a job, you stay there for 50 years, and that's not the environment we live in anymore. And so what I was really experiencing was I would have a job, I'd work really, really hard, and then get really burnt out just about every single time because I had so much to give, but I wasn't pouring anything back into myself. The way that I am in my nature, regular employment was not for me because I was give 1,000%. And that's not really rewarded in, corporate America. I noticed though that even though all of my jobs, like when COVID hit, they shut my hours to 0, which meant I didn't have an unemployment check. So I started Uber eating. I found a job at Walmart to do their customer service. I found through those experiences that I was able to take the skill sets that I learned, even though they might seem like meaningless jobs, and apply them into now the things that I do now. Understanding how to de escalate people, that skill has been so useful in when a client might be upset or might not be seeing it the same way to help them step back. And oftentimes, it's funny on those calls, it became like mini therapy sessions. Being able to like mine out what is actually going on is such a necessary skill now.
That is that is amazing, and I'm thinking about, like, you talking about the ability to de-escalate, and I thought a lot of times those people, when things aren't going as they think they should go, and they throw their two-year-old tantrum, right? And it's right, so it's had to help too in that place of parenting, how to de-escalate some tantrums with your little ones. Now, when we talked in our previous conversation, You mentioned that one of the things that you struggle with as a mom who is obviously very creative and your mind is thinking about your clients or the music that you're writing or the music that you're helping other people write, writing a book. I mean, you have a lot of different aspects to your business that you're growing, but you're also a wife. You're also a mother. You love the Lord. So you are wearing all these different hats and each one carries many different obligations or duties within them. You mentioned that sometimes when you're with your children, maybe even with your husband, maybe even sitting in church, it's hard to stay present in that place that you are. So, what does it mean for you to stay present?
Yeah, this is a good question. Staying present to me really means not thinking about anything in the past, which is, I think, a very hard thing for most women to do. I always am repeating conversations in my head. And then also not thinking about anything that's going to happen later. Um, that's a very simple way to think about it, but it's probably the hardest thing to do to just sit there and enjoy the moment because a second later, it's a new moment. And that is the hardest thing to do, but that is where we are called to live our lives.
Mm, mhm. How have you seen yourself? Just, I mean, maybe even in the last week or so, have you seen yourself show up well in being present with your family?
One thing I've been trying to work on, and it is really hard, it's not something I've perfected at all. My husband and I do these 30-minute breaks where we'll keep the kids in the playroom and each 30 minutes we'll like go either work or do some house chore and the other one is responsible for watching all three of them. Because otherwise we just can't get anything done. And so in those 30-minute breaks, I've been trying to just put my phone away. And it's so funny how I noticed that my kids' behavior just when the phone's not even present, how different they act and how much fun we have. One of the times I did it, I was like holding my one baby and just the way he was like looking at me was just so sweet. And it was funny because I was at a church women's retreat and this woman came up to me and she was like, I was having a hard time. And she was saying like, I might cry a little bit. I'm sorry. I didn't think I would cry, but
Uh,
she said like, you are a really great mom. The Lord just wanted me to tell you that. And I broke down crying because I felt like I was being such a bad mom, just being like not present and like getting so overwhelmed and frustrated. And then the thing she said, it kind of hit me right now, but she said, the way that your baby looks at you just tells me that you're a good mom. Um, I just kind of connected those right now. That really stuck with me because oftentimes we're just so hard on ourselves, and sometimes just being present is like looking at them in the face and noticing their smiles.
I love your vulnerability. It just speaks to our deep longing as moms, especially in the season that you're in. You needed to hear that. One time I had a friend say to me, "You're not afraid to parent." And whenever your children need to be parented, you're not afraid to stop what you're doing and parent your children. It was just that they need the presence. Those words go a long way and bring such healing to our soul. And I love the way that just washed over you again.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because I
yeah.
wasn't paying attention in that moment. I was so in my head, and she's like, "Your baby's just staring at you, like, smiling ear to ear." And it's
Uh-huh.
what you said, it's sometimes you just don't notice.
Where do you notice yourself slipping into that zoning out or your mind being other places?
Yeah, usually it is in a lot of times of transition. So, anytime we're going to the car, anytime we're doing breakfast, anytime we're doing dinner, it's like it's such a process, and I don't love that side of parenting, which sounds awful, but it can be really challenging when all 3 of them have such high needs at, meal times and, you have to nurse the baby, but the other one just, like, fell off the chair, and it's like, I notice myself disconnecting in that way, and also, especially when it's just we're in the playroom, and I do tend to really want to grab my phone and just zone out because it's almost like you're working, like, on 1,000% and then you're given an opportunity to sit there and play with your kids, and it's really hard to go back down to 0 and be present.
That is hard. You just said, that's not the part I love about parenting. Let's sit in that space. How does it feel to even acknowledge that as a mom?
Yeah, I think it's really hard and kind of embarrassing a little bit because my business goal is to have most time with my kids. And so for me to admit that, it is a little hard because I'm doing this business so that I can spend time with them, but I also don't like the caregiving side. But I heard somebody say, I wish I knew who it was. I was scrolling on social media like we do, and she said like it's okay to not like the caregiving side of motherhood because that's not the whole point. And I am not a person who loves this infancy side. Like my oldest is 3 and I'm starting to really enjoy motherhood because I like can finally have like a almost like a real relationship with him. So when I mean like I don't like the caretaking side, I don't like to change all the diapers. We do a diaper line and then every time I sit down, one person be like, I need more water. It's just that constant interrupt. And we feel like we should enjoy every part of motherhood, but I don't think we have to. And everybody some people love the infancy side of motherhood, but I know I'm gonna really like the a little bit older side.
I applaud your boldness for saying that. I think it's okay to say, this isn't my favorite part or my favorite season of motherhood. I am so overwhelmed with the caregiving tasks and I've lost myself. So thanks for putting that out there. Again, I think it's really bold for you to just be willing to say it and to own it and know too that it's for a season. You're already seeing the season change with your oldest.
I wanna make one point too just on that even though I don't like the caretaking side, it's definitely necessary for us to do it and to build that bond, but that bond through the caretaking, if you do it right, will supersede later on. But you don't have to do it 100% of the time either.
If you're caring for them, they're going to feel
Yeah,
safe, right? Right.
exactly.
Yeah. In the rhythm of your day, if you were looking from a balcony down at your life and you were watching your day play out, what would that look like to have arrived at that place that you envision?
I'm starting to implement a lot of it actually, but it's the boundaries that I'm still working on. I would work I would spend time with my kids for the beginning of the day, drop them off at the gym daycare like I do, and work for 2 hours, and whatever I didn't get done is tomorrow's problem. The rest of the day, I would have to just be a quote unquote stay-at-home mom. Yet I do see that I would need more support inside the business side. I've been trying to kind of DIY everything. And my mentor actually recommended that I hire somebody 1 day a week to just do all the operation and admin stuff and see how much time is more freed up for my day. So I think that's what it would look like is having the stability of support with somebody else in my business.
What does that ideal space feel like for you?
It feels good because I feel like I'd be so much more calm. A lot of times I'm in my head or somebody will message me and it feels urgent in the moment, even though I know technically I could let it wait till the next day. But in those moments, like I get an email from somebody and I'm like, oh, I need to send this email. And then I get really overwhelmed because it's hard to write an email when you have 3 kids like trying to get your attention. actually had this happen. I'm helping my one friend launch a course. We were trying to talk, and she has 2 kids too. And both of us, like, every time our kid would interrupt, we were like getting frustrated. You could hear each other on the phone be like, "Hey," or whatever. It was just funny because I was kind of like a reflection. I got to see her getting frustrated at her kids, and I'm over here getting frustrated at my kids because I'm not able to like finish the conversation. So knowing that I can't do work when I'm with the kids, that is not my job.
Real quick, you mentioned it, going to the gym, your
Yeah.
little parenting hack that you have figured out. Why don't you share that with some other moms that might be looking for a couple hours in their day?
So I saw something years ago that said, if you want to be successful, go to where the successful people are. So I go to a very fancy gym. It seems so silly to pay for something so expensive. But I was looking at the hours that I was paying a babysitter, and I was like, if I just cut this and put that towards the gym, and this gym gives you 2.5 hours of work. So I go work out for 30 minutes and then I have 2 hours to work on my business. It's where I schedule all my meetings. It's just been such a freeing thing. And it's funny because I'm in there, but there's also like 5 other moms doing the same thing. At first, I thought it would be weird, but they really don't care what you're doing. They're there to watch the kids and they don't care if you go take a nap, you work, or you actually do a workout.
That's awesome. I think that's the greatest mom hack. That's just brilliant. So there you go, mom. There's 2.5 hours for you, and you get a workout in, which you didn't get when you were paying for a babysitter. Future version of Courtney. Okay. She's got all the rhythm. Her life's flowing. She's got the rhythm down that is working for her and her family. Stuff happens, kids get sick, what wisdom would the future Courtney whisper to the tired entrepreneurial mom that is desiring to get there today?
I would just say relax. That that's what I would say. I'm so wound up, and it's all because of outside perceptions. Like, for example, I like, people are gonna think what they think no matter what. A good example is, like, with the house keeping up. There's no balance, and so, like, in this season of building, our houses are just a little bit messier than I would like. But it's not the stress of the house necessarily being messy, it's more of the stress of, like, what if somebody walks in and sees my messy house? I think letting go of, like, what other people might perceive and just relaxing into, like, "This is what I'm capable of doing. This is where I'm at, and everything's gonna be okay." In entrepreneurship, I had this realization that as long as you keep going, you cannot fail, because most businesses fail within 2 years, and I've passed that 2-year mark, and I definitely could have just stopped and it would have failed. But you genuinely just cannot fail if you just keep going. You might have
Mm.
to pivot, but you can't fail.
And can I tell you a secret? That's that's motherhood too.
It's true. That's fair. That's a good point.
I don't know about other mothers out there, but there are days that I laid on my floor and I said, "I quit. I can't do this." In my mind, I wasn't quitting, but boy, I my body, soul, and lots of other parts of me just wanted to quit, and I'd get back up, and somehow you make it through. You just keep going, and you arrive, and you launch your kids into adulthoods, and you go, "Whoa, I just put one foot in front of the other most days, and most days it was a baby step, and it wasn't a ginormous step."
I'm glad you poured that up too, because it just made me think my midwife actually said that, like, the moment you say, "I can't do this," is right when the baby comes. Um, and you're what you just said, it's so true. Like, it's that overwhelm. And the moment you say you can't do it, that's like, the moment you're going to arrive to the next level of motherhood or whatever it is.
Whatever it is, we learn so many things through motherhood. You work with business other entrepreneurs and you help them develop their business, their social media strategy and things like that. And uh a lot of times businesses look at the competition and then we try to copy what other people are doing. You're very creative. How do you help a woman or a business owner, even a mother, rediscover a unique calling that's hidden beneath maybe the overwhelm or the copying of others?
We all are born with unique gifts. Not one person is the same as somebody else. And it's been really frustrating for me actually because I see all these business plans go on social media where they say, "Oh, you can make 10K a month doing this side hustle." And it's not true. It's true in the sense of they did it. There's people that are successful, but the people who are successful are the ones that take the knowledge from whatever training they're going in and make it their own. And it becomes oversaturated when people start copying each other versus making it their own. I was going to teach one girl I brought on how to do meta advertising because that's like my bread and butter. And I needed somebody to kind of help me with the accounts. And it was not working for her. We realized she's so good at connecting. Like she just messaged me today and got me this huge connection who's a Grammy songwriter. And she just happened to like meet them, at the grocery store. It was crazy. But she has this unique gift of connecting people to the right people. And I told her, you keep looking at all these other ideas for business, but you are so good at like connecting people. And she's like, well, that's not a job. I said that is a job. People will pay you to connect them to the right people. I'm actually really bad at that. And she's very good at that. It just doesn't even feel like work. And so whenever you feel like something doesn't feel like work, that's probably what you're supposed to do. So for me, like I didn't think giving businesses advice was work. It was just like we would go on our calls and for an hour they would just pick my brain and I'd just say, "No, do this, do that." Like that, no, that's not going to work. And I would give them like content ideas. I didn't know what consulting was. I couldn't grasp my mind around that people could pay me just for my ideas. And that's what I do now. But I like genuinely when I first started, I didn't think there was a business in that at all. I was over here trying to copy the blueprint of like running ads for people and like making content and then running their Facebook and Instagram ads. But I don't love it. And I love giving people ideas. So that's kind of like what I do is help people figure out like, okay, what are you good at? And then what does the market actually need?
Yeah. As you're saying all that, I'm like, well, that's your superpower that you talked about. You see
That's
these
very
things
yeah.
in people, or the pattern and you call it out and you're actually using it not just to help people, but to generate revenue. I mean, that's a win-win, right? I mentioned at the beginning a book that you've written with some kind of sequence or something. Yeah, let's talk about the book that you wrote because I'm pretty fascinated by the title.
Yeah. So the book is all about skill stacking. And basically, the Fibonacci sequence is a sequence found in every single thing in nature. So I believe God designed it. And it's God's sequence. It's found in your DNA. For example, sunflowers will have 21 seeds. Everything follows the pattern. Everything starts at zero. You add one, 0 plus 1 equals one. Then you add the next two numbers, 1 plus 1 equals two. And basically, which my book is you're the sum of your last two moves. The sequence is just adding the two last numbers together to make the next number. And so I've found that if you apply God's design that he's made all of nature into your business of adding what you are right now plus one more thing, you will create something new in your business. So what that might look like is, say you're a great teacher. Well, maybe you learn social media and you add your teaching skills plus your new skill of social media and you create a whole content business teaching other teachers your methods. I want to take the quantum leap back to God's people. It's actually about just taking a multiplier, which might be a mentor, a coach, a training program, a new method. And that's the multiplier squaring what you already have inside of you to jump into sequence. So for myself, I was not an author like last month. I had this idea, but I never thought I would ever write a book about it. Purely by being in that mentorship program, he multiplied who I already was. And I got to jump a lot in my sequence from being just a service based freelancer in meta advertising to being an author and consultant, like seemingly overnight. And that's what quantum leaping is, you know, when you're in one level and you kind of jump to a higher level overnight. You do that through a mentor, a coach, a new method, and it might be advertising. So like that's a big one. There's one business. She's one of my favorite clients and she's a tea company. She was at the farmer's market. I approached her about meta ads. She was a little skeptical, but we've been doing it. And overnight sales because she has a great product. We put it on an advertising platform, which is the multiplier of a new method to sell. And then she's making sales in her sleep. So it's not about like anything woo woo. It's just uncovering the anointing God has on your
Mm.
life and kind of getting there quicker. And God wants you to get there quicker, you know?
So in your book, do you talk about that whole quantum leap? I mean, the way that you explain that, and then when you described what those multipliers are, they're a coach, they're a mentor, they're the advertising. I mean, that's so simple. That makes so much sense the way that you just laid that all out. So, your book, go into that, but do you give us tools?
Yeah, every chapter has a exercise. So like chapter 1 is actually just going and writing down every job you've had, every skill that you learned. What it's teaching you is to reflect because like a lot of people go about their life not connecting the dots of, for example, I was working at a pregnancy center. Nonstop, people would ask me to create their brochures or business cards on Canva. Annoying because it wasn't my job, but it was a clue to what I was supposed to be doing because in advertising, all I do is make designs for people on Canva. It's it's about finding those for yourself and uncovering those clues that God's kind of putting in front of you. And then every chapter builds upon the next. But it's almost sad to see like people not using their gifts.
Hmm.
And that's what the book is. Every chapter has an exercise to get you to that leap.
You said it's available on Amazon. Tell us the name of it again.
Yeah, you are the sum of your last two moves. And then the subtitle is How to Use the Secrets of the Fibonacci Sequence to Get Unstuck in Life.
I will definitely have the link for that in the show notes, and it is available on Amazon. What is your dream for those who are reading the book?
Yeah, so I think in our society, it's impossible to just have one job, one household income. And my goal is to help more people get out of the rut that my husband and I have been in, where you really can't provide for a family on one income. I want to help parents be able to be home with their kids again. I hate saying this, but I'm just going to say it's too normalized to put your kids in daycare before 3. I know it's necessary for many families to just get by, but I want this book to help people who don't want that to be their life get out of that because it's not required. If you use your skills, so like my skill of songwriting, I use to create One Day Songwriter. I sell that in my sleep. I have ads running and people buy the course and I did it one time and now I get the fruits of the sales. That allows me to be home with my kids and not really have to work a real job. Working 2 hours a day it almost feels like a break. Like work for me is a break now. You have to find the right support system and the right routine for your family. But if you do want to be home with your babies, you have permission and you can. You just have to find a different way to do that. I just want parents to be back with their kids.
You're fighting for family with your book and you're empowering them to bring in the resources that they need to be able to be home and be family. So I love that. So there's always a passionate mission behind so much of what we do. So, Courtney, one last question. So, the mom that's listening right now, maybe she is holding her phone, fighting that urge to check out, and the scroll is the easy way out, and she's just exhausted. What's one gentle nudge that you'd offer to bring her back to the moment, to her calling, to her heart?
Yeah, I just say change doesn't happen overnight. It's really about doing one small thing that's gonna multiply into bigger things later. I have a good friend and she is really into the non-toxic living and she didn't want to use her microwave. Instead of just saying to herself, I'm never using the microwave again, she planned that out. Today, I'm going to put the pot that I'm going to double boil on the stove, but I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to like set it up. And it's the same with anything. If you want to get off your phone, do it in baby steps. So instead of just saying, I'm going to delete all my apps, get off of social media, you're going to fail and it's going to really hurt your ego a lot. So instead, just say, I'm going to shut my phone off for 2 minutes and play a game with my kid for 2 minutes. And then gradually increase it to 3 minutes. And then once you feel comfortable at that and you're not itching for your phone, go to 5, go to 15 minutes. There's no race. Just do these changes in like small baby steps so that you can feel accomplished and not defeated.
The sum of your last two steps propel you forward. So you've got the 2 minutes, right? And then, the next is another minute, and they're just moving you forward step by step. But if you add, I don't know, accountability or something, accountability goes a long way for me.
Oh, well, that's what I did. So I knew every afternoon I was very much on my phone. So instead of being home, I went and did a play date. Every time I'm on a play date, I'm not on my phone and I'm with my kids. So you're right.
I'm applying what you taught me
Yeah.
today to life, and I'm going to be thinking about that in the changes that I want to make. Thank you so much for just your honesty, your transparency today about your whole journey, momhood and entrepreneurship, and then sharing your wisdom and insight to help propel us to the next step and hopefully take that quantum leap forward. I would love for you to share how people can get a hold of you. Your book will be in the show notes, but tell us how to get a hold of you for anybody who wants to follow up.
Yeah, you can email me at info@courtneyschawl.com. And my name, people spell wrong. So it's SSCHAWL.com.
Courtney, it has been so great having you on today. Your honesty, your wisdom. I know so many moms listening felt seen in your story, especially around the challenges you have with presence, the messiness of motherhood, and chasing your unique God-given calling. Beloved, if today's conversation stirred something in you, maybe you're longing to step out of survival mode and into the life God is calling you to, I'd love to invite you to book a free clarity call with me. You're going to find the link in the show notes. And please share this episode with a friend that might possibly be struggling in that search of finding her unique calling and her God-given identity. Today's episode is an invitation for you to start uncovering the rhythms that God designed you to live in with peace, passion, and purpose. Remember, Mom, when you shine, you give others permission to shine too. So get out there and shine your light bright.